Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Threezero 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review video. Now today we are taking a look at my very first Ultraman figure from Threezero. I have previously reviewed the Eastern model Shinjiro figure, but this guy was the first to re-release from Threezero. Now they have done the various other characters from the show as well, such as Ace and of course the main character Shinjiro, so whenever they do end up re-releasing, I will be reviewing them as well. But what better way to start off this line than with 7. This guy is a total badass in the Netflix anime series Ultraman. If you haven't already, go ahead and check out the show. It's fantastic. I personally really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to Season 2, whenever that eventually drops. Now, if you are looking to pre-order any of the other Ultraman figures, or pick up this guy, he is available right now from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is, of course, down below, and they do have 12-month installment plans if you are a fan of paying off your figures over time. What we are going to do now, though, is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. Here, of course, we have the box art for 7. Now, I have to say, this is a relatively simple design, but I love the way it looks. Massive Ultraman logo up the top, and of course, a rendering of 7 from the show. I really like that artwork style. On the side, Ultraman once again, and also a logo style image that technically is just the same one from the front. Now, you can, of course, open up the front cover if you want to get a sneak preview of 7 himself, but I'm pretty sure y'all are just as curious as I am to see this guy out of the box, so here we have him in his clam tray. Now let's get this guy out here. I've been pretty darn excited to pick up the Threezero line ever since I first picked up that model kit version from Eastern Model. These guys, though, I think are in an entirely different league. I can already feel how hefty this figure is in hand. Down here feels like a ton of diecast, so I was curious as to whether or not these guys would actually include any metal. And of course, Threezero being Threezero, there is definitely some diecast in this figure. First, in-hand impressions? Oh yeah, very darn positive. Now, as you can see, he does come with some various accessories, so what we are going to do now is get all of the bits and pieces that come with 7 laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have all the bits and pieces that come with Ultraman 7. Now, unfortunately, once again, Threezero opted not to give us a display base. I really hope that one day they decide to give characters specifically like 7 who spends a lot of time in the air a dynamic flight stand. I mean, they could have gone all out with some tech detail, Ultraman logo on the front, but unfortunately, he doesn't come with one. He does, however, come with his big honkin' sword. This thing is awesome, and yeah, it's super long. I do like the gunmetal finish to the blade itself. It is rather sharp at the tip, so do be careful, and there is some sculpted in detail on the rather chonky handle. Now, the cool thing about the sword is, yes, it can connect to the body in a rather seamless way. You do have to use 2 separate pieces. This is actually a replacement piece for the thigh armor. You install this little rubbery strap, and then you bring in the sword itself and connect this piece onto it to create a relatively seamless look. It basically looks like it's formed out of his thigh armor. That is a really cool touch. Now, this piece, as I said, is a rubbery strap, so it will move out of the way when it comes to articulation and bending the leg outwards. There is also a little bit of detail printed on the surface there. Don't worry, you will see that on the figure a little bit later in the video. The only other pieces that he does come with in terms of weaponry are these 3 throwing blades. They're a really interesting shape, there's some serration to the underside, and once again they're done in a gorgeous metallic silver. You also get an array of hands with printing on the outside and some really nice metallic gunmetal to the ribbed sculpting on the inside of the palm there. What we are going to do now though is get Ultraman 7 himself out here and take a closer look. Here we have him standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And I have to say, this guy looks awesome. There's one key thing that I think Threezero nailed, and that's the proportions. He has really long legs, a smaller upper torso, and very broad heroic shoulders. He looks exactly like he did in the animation, and I think that was key to getting this guy to look as good as possible. And I'm glad they nailed it. He looks fantastic. Secondly though, they nailed the paint applications. He has a gorgeous metallic silver, a punchy, vibrant metallic red, and then the sculpted in detail looks fantastic. So yeah, I'm super impressed right off the bat with my very first Threezero Ultraman figure, but he's not entirely perfect. There is some more to discuss in just a second. What we are going to do now though is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. And here we have him up close and personal. Now, so far, I am really impressed with this figure. Is he perfect? No, I honestly don't think he is. There's one key reason why I'd potentially caution away from picking up this figure, and we'll get to it in just a second. Now let's start off with the helmet itself first. I do currently have the eye lights on. As you can see, the eyes can be seen through the translucent yellow visor, and I love the sculpt. It's super angular, there's a ton of detail here, he's got little stickers and tampos, and this piece on the back can actually move backwards and forwards, so yeah, you have a little bit of functional movement, plus some little teeny tiny caution stickers. I love the helmet design here. It's quite striking, and in 1/6 scale it works very nicely. Now moving down to his outfit or his armor, this kind of gives us the best look of what a Threezero 1/6 scale Iron Man figure would look and feel like. It's very heavy, there's a ton of metal here, and the paint applications are gorgeous. There are actually two different shades of red. Up here on the main armor sections, we've got this really nice dark cherry red, but then on the abdomen section and on the biceps, we've got this slightly lighter red. I don't really love the way the lighter red looks, specifically on the abdomen section. Unfortunately, this piece is made out of rubber, and as we all know, over time the red starts to fade. In fact, on mine, this section right here is slightly lighter than the rest, so I am cautiously optimistic that it will stand the test of time, but as I said, only time will tell if this will in fact last. The rest of him though is entirely diecast. It's just this middle section right here that's made of rubber. If they ever decide to redo Ultraman 7, I hope they ditch the rubber altogether, just because it's just a little bit more risky. You can also see a slight crease from where I've been articulating mine. The rest of him though looks absolutely gorgeous. There's a ton of detail in the sculpt. There's once again little stickers that have been applied, which are actually printed on the surface. They're just meant to be stickers in universe. And then coming down to his long legs, these things are very sleek and very hefty. I reckon this entire lower part is made of metal, and it looks and feels fantastic. There's something to be said about holding a 1/6 scale Ultraman in pretty much all metal in hand. It's very impressive, and so too is this guy right here. But there is of course that one swap out piece, so you can have his sword on his thigh. So without further ado, let's put it on. And there you have it. Now, of course, it goes on this side. I don't know why I was thinking it goes on this one. Just make sure you read the instructions properly and it'll give you the correct side and layout to install the sword. You simply swap out this panel, you apply this rubbery section, and then you can peg the sword in. Now, mine is sitting a little bit further out from the body. It can be pressed all the way in, but it's a super firm joint, so I am worried about pushing it all the way in, just in case I happen to snap it off. I don't think that it'll happen, but I don't want to run the risk. Either way, when you have the sword installed, this guy looks awesome. You can of course swivel it up and down if you'd like to have it at more of an angle, but yeah, this is totally how I'm going to be having my 7 displayed in the collection. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have Ultraman Shinjiro on the right and Ultraman 7 on the left. And as you can see, they are two different products from two completely different companies, but I think they still work together very, very nicely. The scale is on point here. Shinjiro is a younger dude, he's a high schooler to be totally frank, so it makes sense he would be smaller than the fully grown adult here being 7. The scale works perfectly. We also have two very different approaches to how you go about making an Ultraman figure. One has a rubbery style torso and a lot more die-cast, whereas the Eastern model version of Shinjiro has a little bit less die-cast. It's still quite hefty, mind you, and it started off its life as some kind of model kit before they decided to do a high-end version. So two very different figures, but still, as I said, side by side, I personally think they work. Just going over articulation on Ultraman 7. Now bear in mind this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I'm willing to go. Now, starting off with the helmet first, you have a ball joint at the base of the head, then one at the base of the neck. So forward and back, a total non-issue, some swivel and pivot side to side from both the upper and lower joints. Now, the arms do have a ton of motion in them as well. First of all, you can move the shoulder pad up and the arms will go the full way. They of course go forward and back and then simply push this down to close up the gap. You do have a massive amount of range from the butterfly joint, but the arm can also go up and down, so you can alter the stance of 7. We do have a swivel at the bicep, a double bend at the elbow, and of course a ball joint for the wrist. Now the torso, as we've already discussed, is covered by this rubbery piece, but it has a ton of crunch going forward and a massive amount back as well. That also incorporates swivel and pivot side to side. Now the legs will go forward to about there. They will also go out, but first of all you have to move this piece slightly up and then drop the leg down. That way you will get a little bit more range of motion, but they go up to about there. Swivel at the upper thigh, a double bend here at the knee, which goes a crazy amount, and then of course a ball joint down here for the ankle. Just wrapping up on the Threezero Diecast Ultraman 7 figure. Now going into this, I had no idea what to expect. I mean, yes, I do own a bunch of the DLX scale Transformers from Threezero, and now in hindsight I can see that this guy should technically move a lot like they do. And he does. He has a ton of the same engineering, there's a bunch of diecast in here, but there's also a lot that's different because this is supposed to be a dude in a suit, so it looks a lot more humanoid. I love, though, the way he is painted and the way he is sculpted, but there's one thing that I don't love, and that's the rubbery torso. I wish they'd figured out a way to do away with that because I fear for its longevity, in terms of posing and in terms of paint fading. As you saw earlier in the video, mine is already starting to fade just a little bit. Overall though, if that sort of stops and doesn't go any further than where it is right now, I'm still happy to add this guy to the collection. He's a badass dude in the show, and in figure format, he's equally so. Now if you'd like to pick one up for yourself, he is available from toyswonderland.com. The link for that is of course down in the description below, and they do have 12-month installment plans if you are a fan of paying off your figures over time. Also, while you're down there, check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.